Picture this. Seoul, 1968. A nation holding an invitation to host the Asian Games, about to make a stunning choice. South Korea was supposed to host the 1970 Asian Games, the 6th edition, a chance for international glory and recognition. But then something happened that shocked the sports world. Korea gave it up, simply walked away from hosting. Can you imagine? Your country turns down hosting the Olympics of Asia. Sounds crazy, right? But there were reasons. Just months earlier, North Korean commandos had tried to assassinate the president. Security concerns were very, very real in Seoul. Plus, Korea was broke. The government simply couldn't afford the massive expense. The stadium, the facilities, the infrastructure. So in 1968, Korea officially returned the hosting rights. And guess who picked them up? Thailand. Bangkok stepped in. Bangkok hosted a successful Asian Games in 1970. Athletes competed, medals were won, the world watched Thailand shine brightly. Two countries, one canceled games, one successful games, both at similar starting points economically, both developing nations. Fast forward 50 years. Today, these two nations couldn't be more different. The gap between them? Absolutely staggering. So here's the question that haunts economists. What happened? How did similar countries end up in completely different places? Let's rewind to 1970. The year of that Asian Games. Korea and Thailand. Not so different back then. South Korea's GDP, about $8.9 billion. Thailand's GDP, around $7 billion. Pretty close, wouldn't you say? Per capita income in Korea, $279 per person per year. In Thailand, $202. Literally the same ballpark. Both countries were classified as low-income to lower-middle-income economies. Both heavily dependent on agriculture. Both just beginning industrialization. Thailand had tourism and early manufacturing. Korea had farming and the very first steps of industrial development. Similar foundations. Neither was rich. Neither was powerful. Neither seemed destined for greatness. Just two developing Asian nations trying to survive. Now jump to 2024. South Korea's per capita GDP, over $33,000, a developed high-income nation, OECD member. Thailand's per capita GDP in 2024, around $7,300, still classified as upper-middle income, still trying to break through. Korea makes semiconductors, cars, smartphones, K-pop. Thailand makes, well, it's still heavily reliant on tourism and manufacturing. The gap grew from almost nothing to absolutely enormous. From neighbors in poverty to completely different economic universes. So what explains this? Was it resources, luck, geography, smart leaders? Actually, it's something deeper, something more fundamental. The answer lies in a word that sounds boring, but is absolutely critical. Institutions. Not buildings, not organizations, systems. Institutions are the rules of the game. The laws, regulations, contracts, courts. The systems that make society predictable. Think about it this way. Would you invest your life savings if laws changed every year? If courts were unreliable? Would you build a factory if you didn't know whether your property rights would be protected tomorrow? Probably not. Economist Douglas North won the Nobel Prize for proving this. Institutions are the foundation of economic growth. Period. But here's the catch. Institutions take time to build. They need consistency, stability, accumulation over years and decades. When institutions keep changing, trust evaporates. Investors freeze. Companies delay. Growth stalls. It's like building on quicksand constantly. This is called path dependence. Your initial choices shape your future options. You get locked into certain trajectories. Countries that build stable institutions grow. Countries that keep resetting their institutions, they get stuck, trapped in the middle. Thailand got caught in what economists call the middle income trap. You know what that is? Let me explain. The middle income trap? When a country grows from poor to middle class, but then just stops. Can't go higher. Why? Because low wages and cheap resources brought early growth. But upgrading to high-tech, high-value industries requires something else. It requires education, innovation, technology, research, and development. And most importantly, institutional stability that encourages long-term thinking. Thailand had the growth, It built factories, it welcomed tourists, but it couldn't make the jump to advanced economy. And a big reason why? Political instability kept wiping the institutional slate clean, over and over and over again. Now let's talk about South Korea, the country that gave up the Asian Games, the one that looked broke. From the 1960s through the 1980s, Korea was not a democracy. It was authoritarian. Military-backed leaders ruled with iron fists. But here's the interesting part. Despite regime changes, economic policy stayed incredibly consistent. Industries were targeted, supported, grown systematically. The government picked winners: steel, shipbuilding, electronics, semiconductors, and it backed them with credit, protection, and infrastructure investment. Was it perfect? Hell no, there was corruption. There were cabals, massive family conglomerates, getting preferential treatment everywhere. But the rules of the game stayed stable. Investors knew what to expect. Companies could plan decades ahead. Then came 1987. Massive protests. Democracy arrived. The rules changed politically, but economically, institutions kept accumulating, building on what existed. Workers got rights, labor laws strengthened, social welfare expanded, but contracts remained enforceable. Courts became more independent, not less. Then 1997 hit. The Asian financial crisis. Korea went bankrupt. The IMF had to bail them out. Humiliating. But what happened next? Korea didn't blame institutions. It strengthened them, reformed corporate governance, tightened financial regulations dramatically, made banks more transparent, made companies disclose more, reduced the chaebol's power over politicians, slowly but surely built trust. Growth slowed initially. Painful reforms hurt. But long-term, Korea climbed the value chain, became a technology powerhouse. Samsung, Hyundai, LG. By 2025, according to the latest IMF report, Korea is dealing with new challenges: low growth and aging. Growth projected at just 0.9% in 2025. Political uncertainties are weighing on the economy. Consumer confidence is shaky. But here's the critical difference. Korea's institutions are holding. The central bank is independent. Courts function. Rule of law persists. Even in crisis, investors trust Korean bonds. Foreign companies still invest. Why? Because the institutional foundation is solid after decades. The political system might be messy. Democracy is noisy. But the economic rules stay consistent. That's institutional accumulation at work. Now let's cross over to Thailand. A completely different story. A pattern that repeated itself with devastating consequences. From the 1980s through the 1990s, Thailand experienced incredible growth. Double-digit rates, money pouring in. The tiger economy. Bangkok sparkled. Factories multiplied, exports soared. International investors loved Thailand. It looked unstoppable. Everything was going Thailand's way. But underneath the growth, something dangerous was brewing. Political instability, military coups, constitutions rewritten constantly, governments toppled repeatedly. Since 1932, Thailand has had, get this, 20 constitutions, 20 different sets of fundamental rules. Can you believe that? Every few years, a coup, a new government, new policies, new regulations, everything reset. Investors and businesses constantly adjusting. In 2006, a military coup overthrew Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. Markets panicked. Foreign investment dropped. Uncertainty exploded overnight. Then 2014. Another coup. The military took over again. More instability, more reset, more broken promises to investors. Each time economic policies changed. Regulations shifted. Long-term plans got scrapped. Companies that planned for decades? Out of luck. Now, political change isn't automatically bad. Democracies change leaders all the time. But in Thailand, it wasn't just leaders changing. The entire rulebook kept getting rewritten. Courts lost independence. Contracts became uncertain. Property rights? Questionable. Trust evaporated completely. Imagine you're a business person in Thailand. You want to build a high-tech factory. It requires billions in investment. But will the tax code be the same next year? Will environmental regulations stay consistent? Will your contract be enforced? You don't know. Nobody knows. So what do? You wait, you delay, you invest somewhere else instead. This happened over and over. Foreign direct investment in Thailand became volatile. Long-term projects dried up. Innovation stalled completely. According to the latest IMF report from early 2025, Thailand's growth is sluggish, just 2.7% in 2024. Inflation is extremely low, only 0.4% in 2024. Sounds good, right? Wrong. It signals weak domestic demand. Nobody's buying. The economy is stuck in low gear. Tourism rebounded after COVID, yes. But high-value industries, still missing, still undeveloped. And here's a terrifying number. Household debt in Thailand is around 85 to 90% of GDP. That's massive, crushing, unsustainable. Why so high? Because wages aren't growing. Productivity isn't rising. So people borrow just to maintain living standards. That debt constrains consumption. It limits investment. It creates financial fragility and political pressure for quick fixes instead of reforms. The OECD's 2025 economic survey paints a grim picture too. Thailand's productivity growth has basically flatlined since 2015. Between 2015 and 2023, productivity growth averaged just 2.1%. Compare that to 4.8% from 2010 to 2015, collapse. Informal employment is widespread. Over half the workforce works informally. No social protection, no pension, no job security whatsoever. Foreign investment remains volatile. Companies come for cheap labor but don't invest in innovation. They don't build research centers. Thailand is stuck making mid-level goods, not high-tech, not cutting-edge, just stuck. Trapped in the middle-income zone. Here's where this gets personal. This isn't just about GDP numbers or economic theory, it's about real people, real lives. In South Korea, despite current struggles, a typical worker has career options. Technology jobs, global companies, upward mobility exists. In Thailand, that same worker, probably stuck in tourism or low-wage manufacturing. Limited choices, stagnant wages, debt accumulation. Institutional instability doesn't just hurt companies. It hurts individuals. It affects whether you can afford a home, education, healthcare. Think about buying a house. In Korea, despite high prices, mortgage systems work. Banks are reliable. Property rights clear. In Thailand, with constant policy changes, even getting a mortgage becomes uncertain. Interest rates fluctuate wildly. Rules change overnight. Political stability isn't an abstract concept. It's the difference between planning your future or just surviving day to day. It's whether your kids can get good education, whether you can retire with dignity, whether your work today builds something tomorrow. In Korea, problems exist, absolutely. Inequality, political scandals, demographic collapse. But the system's foundation holds. People can plan ahead. In Thailand, that same foundation keeps cracking, repeatedly. And people pay the price with limited opportunities and crushing debt. So let's return to where we started. 1970, the Asian Games. One country gave it up, one took it on. That single event didn't determine the future. Korea's decision to cancel wasn't why it succeeded. Thailand hosting wasn't why it struggled. What mattered was what came after. The choices made year after year. The institutions built brick by brick. Korea chose accumulation. Despite authoritarianism, democracy, crisis, institutions kept building, layer upon layer. Trust compounding over decades. That consistency paid off. Thailand chose, or fell into, repeated resets. Every coup erased progress. Every constitution rewrite destroyed trust. Growth couldn't take root deeply. The lesson here isn't about democracy versus authoritarianism. Both countries had both at different times. That's not the variable. The lesson is about institutional continuity. Can your society maintain predictable rules over time? Can people trust the system tomorrow? For you watching this, think about your own country. Are institutions holding? Are rules consistent? Trust matters. When courts become political, when rules change constantly, when contracts become uncertain, growth suffers. Opportunities disappear. Futures become unpredictable. Korea and Thailand prove one thing. Development isn't a sprint. It's not about one good leader or one smart policy. It's a marathon of institution building. Slow, boring, unglamorous, but absolutely essential. The foundation of everything that follows after 50 years ago, two countries stood at similar starting lines. Today, they're worlds apart. Not because of resources or luck, because one built institutions that lasted and one didn't. That's the whole story. That's the difference between success and stagnation. The Asian Games of 1970? Just a footnote. The real game was building systems that people could trust for generations. Korea played that game. Thailand lost track of it. And the results speak for themselves today, loud and clear.